Alright, so the next one we're going to talk about is a super rad system that was revolutionary for its time that just did not get the it didn't get loved the way it needed to, and that's the Sega Dreamcast, which was their last actual console they made, released in 1999. Now, what made this system unique was the fact that, number one, it actually ran on Windows, which now has made it like a huge hacked machine. And even back then, people figured out quickly, because it was running a version of Windows, that they could turn it into one of the best emulating machines on the market. It still is today. You can actually pretty much mod these things just with a disk. You don't need any physical mod capabilities, just basically a CD that allows you soft load, and then you can load, you know, N64 emulators and all kinds of stuff directly on these things, which is super cool. Obviously not Sega's intention, but because of how they made the machine, it was really neat. It's also the first machine ever to be released with a modem. So they built it with the idea of being able to play games online. Again, that was pretty much unheard of at the time, considering that its main competition in 1999 was still the PlayStation 1 and the N64. And so this guy knocks it out, and they're like, whoa, online play built into the machine, which is really cool. The other thing that's really neat, and I'll bring this up to the camera so you guys can kind of take a look at it, was the actual memory cards that the controllers use. So you see the controller is kind of a weird kind of batwing looking controller on the bottom, but the actual memory cards themselves are mini game systems. And so certain games would actually have games built into these that when you saved on them, you could actually play it like you would like a little handheld like Game Boy, which is really kind of cool. And depending on the game you're playing, it would pop up little graphics or maps or other things. Your inventory and stuff like that would pop up on here, so you'd use this screen as a way to do that. And one of the other things they did, which was really neat, with the football game that they have, is your playbook would be here, so that you wouldn't be choosing your plays on screen while your opponent was choosing their plays, which was really common with games at that time. Instead, you could pick them on here, so it was more secret and hidden. Now, this is what the actual screen looks like. This is the main system interface. You have your play, you have your file button. This again allows you to access game saves on these VMUs or virtual memory units, your settings and stuff like that. It still has the same music player that they traditionally included with all their devices. That's just kind of like how they did things. We'll drop a game in it here. With the Dreamcast, Sega abandoned the long box and they just started releasing things in regular jewel cases, trying to save money and basically making things a little more popular. So this is a Sonic Adventure, because I figured, you know, Sega Sonic, right? Again, you'll notice that the other thing the Dreamcast did super cool was they actually had 4 ports built into the device automatically. This was another thing that was really unique. The Saturn had 2. The PlayStation 2, released, you know, a year after this, only had 2. And you had to buy an extra multi-tap in order to have 4 controllers. This came pre-built with 4 controllers already into it. And then you'll see, obviously, the graphics on the Dreamcast are a huge jump up from these other systems, and really comparable with what you'd expect to see on a PlayStation 2 or even an Xbox, GameCube, stuff like that. A nice, really good jump up. Now, one of the main reasons why, as you guys read, this thing died because of developer support. Sega had really ticked off a lot of people with the Saturn, and then basically saying, hey, we have this new system coming out shortly after the release of the Saturn. EA said, forget you guys, we're out. And a number of other companies, you can turn this down, also did the same thing. And so because Sega didn't have a lot of support for third-party developers, people just didn't buy the system. You know, you buy the system for the games, right? But you can see the graphics are way better, and a huge improvement over what the games previously I've shown you were. If you guys can find a Dreamcast, they're super cool. The games are relatively, you know, you can buy them pretty cheap still. They're not too bad, and they're actually still really good games. Let's see if I have any space on my memory cards. Apparently, there you go, memory card 2. So anyways, again, because Sega had already developed a really strong foothold with the fighting community, Capcom, when they released all their games on here, Marvel vs. Capcom and stuff like that, those games are just excellent on here. Soul Calibur was actually a huge release. The first version of Soul Calibur was released on the Dreamcast. And if you guys have played Soul Calibur on the modern systems, this is basically where it originated from, which is pretty rad. So this is Sonic again, and this is the Dreamcast. I just want you guys to get a good look at the graphics on this versus the other systems before we stop talking about this one. Again, I really wanted to bring these in, but you know, can't really do that.